Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about returning to a piece or pieces that we have learnt in the past. What you heard just now was a little bit of the Stanford Concerto. It's the most glorious concerto, and Stephen Roberts, a very good friend and colleague when I was back teaching as clarinet and saxophone professor for the Royal Military, made the most wonderful transcription for concert band of both the Stanford, the Arnold, which you'll see behind me, and Hero Twins, which is a concerto for soprano and alto, so I'll be doubling on that. I performed them back at Regent's Hall, made the premiere back at in 2018, and have not touched these concertos since then. So I'm returning back, as in 2 weeks' time I will be having my first rehearsal with the Grenadier Guards, which I'm extremely excited to do. And I thought I would use this as an opportunity to talk a little bit about returning to pieces. We have tremendous expectations when we come back to a piece, irrespective of the fact that weeks, months, or even years might have elapsed between the last time we looked at it. It's almost as if we fast forward backwards to thinking that we will be able to pick it up exactly where we left it off all those years, weeks or months away. But that's not actually the case very often, even if, and I would call myself a very thorough learner, I don't learn quickly, but I learn very thoroughly. So it was really interesting coming back to these concertos and, in a sense, realizing that there was quite a lot of relearning that had to be done. Now, the small part that I've just played for you, and I played it again, and one of the things that I was observing when I'm relearning and when I'm re-evaluating is breathing. That is one of the things. How is my breath now compared to 2018? Now, I'm not going to go into the health side of things because obviously there were health issues at that time, 2 years after major surgery. So that will have some relevance in my mind. Will I be able to breathe for further? Will my breaths last longer? We have to, these are evaluations that we have to reassess with a fresh and open mind to what is going on. Other things have happened. I'm a bit older. So there are many, many different things. Is my setup? Well, my setup will be pretty much the same, but other factors come in. So returning to a piece, expectation. Now, before I actually get into all of that, I want to put at the front of your minds the word that I have chosen to replace, and I often refer to OPC, Organise, Prioritise, Commit, which is now called the training, testing and performance process. I'm just going to leave that one there because I'm extremely excited that it will be officially launching. Yes, the launch date has moved, but it will officially launch on December the 1st. So I'm going to devote a different webcast to that. What I want to highlight in that distinction of the fact that I have chosen the word training and not practice. Because to my mind, what we are doing when we are sitting and learning our notes, doing our scales, doing our exercises, we are training in the same way as an athlete or as somebody going to the gym doing whether it's in the gym, whether it's doing their lengths in the pool, we are training. And as we are training, we are learning. To me, practice has a different connotation. There is a saying, practice what you preach. But if you haven't done the learning, if you haven't done the training, it seems to me, I know it's a little revolutionary, so it'll take a little bit of kind of thinking about, but are we really practicing or are we training? And if we are training, we are in a learning process. We are training ourselves for a performance, whatever that performance is, whether it's a public performance or whether it's for a lesson or for whatever reason. So I am going to talk a little bit more about training in the course of these various learning webcasts, but I'm just going to leave that one, as they say, on the table and ask you to consider why there should be a real distinction between training in terms of what we do when we are learning in our instrumental training or singing training, whatever your discipline is, as distinct from training as you're training for a race or you're training for some competitive sport, whatever that may be. So I'm just going to let that one sit there for a moment. Returning to a piece. So what are the things that we need to observe when we are returning to a piece as opposed to learning it for the first time? Now, this is still fairly early on for those of you who are perhaps thinking about doing a grade in the coming months. You're thinking about your assessments if you're at the moment in a conservatoire or a university, or you've set yourself to start back to your instrument. You've perhaps been doing some training over the summer, you're starting some formal lessons, whatever it is, that you might be considering not only new repertoire, but perhaps assessing pieces that you would like to return to. What are the reasons you might return to it? Well, you might have a full agenda with a lot of things to manage, and therefore if you're planning a recital or you're planning an exam, or you're simply wanting to mix in new repertoire with things that you need to return, or you've got a concert coming up, somebody's asked you to play a piece that you haven't learned for a little time. These are the reasons. There are multiple reasons, but returning to a piece can be steeped in expectation, and it can really get into the psychology. I could do that before, why can't I do it again? Which we need to really clean the slate and think about, what are we doing in the moment that we are doing it. So I go back to the little phrase that I played just now, and I played it again because I was aware that my fourth finger on the turn was not as tidy as it could be, because it was in the middle of a trill and I hadn't placed the finger where I wanted it to be. So this is why we need to be so mindful of what we are doing at the time that we are doing what we are doing. The other most important to mention is musical, because again we are reassessing the musical intentions that we had developed in the last time that we learnt the piece. Do we agree with them? Can we quantify or qualify what we'd agreed to do then? Do we agree with ourselves? So these are things that are really, really important to keep the performance fresh. There is this concept called mindfulness, which sometimes is sold a little cheaply, I will say. I am referring to mindfulness in its most authentic and original concept, and that is to be in the moment, what you are doing. So there you heard a little bit of the section that I was talking about, where the houses and triangles, the crotchets, the dotted crotchets, that I'm revisiting it. And I think what's really important in this sharing to complete, this sharing of my revisiting these concertos, is first of all, I've got some serious work yet to do. And that's to bring in the idea that suddenly I'm thinking, I've got my first rehearsal in 2 weeks' time, and I am still having to really sort out the counting, never mind the technical side. This concerto is a fabulous concerto, Hero Twins, by Stephen Roberts, who made also the transcriptions of the Arnold and the Stamford for concert band, as this is for. And I will say we will be publishing them in the new year after we're recording in January. So pressure, there is pressure when we realise, oh my gosh, I had learnt this, I performed this, and I'm almost going back to the drawing board. And certainly the first time I played it through, I will absolutely say quite openly, panic was up there with, I've really got a lot of work to do, and this daily breaking it down and putting that, am I going to learn it in time? I had learnt this. Why is this being so problematic coming back to it? I've got to really push that away and go, this is a puzzle. This is a new project, because in a sense, although I learnt it back in 2018, it's a new project now. We're 2022. Also, of course, it's working with the soprano, working with the alto. You know, it's all about flight hours. How many hours have I spent in terms of my technical side on the clarinet as opposed to the sax, even though actually I was learning the alto sax almost as long as the clarinet, if not in the formal weekly lessons. So that's really part of what I wanted to share in this returning to a new piece, or in this case 3 concertos which I had learnt back in 2018, returning back to a piece, whether it's a new piece that we're starting to learn. Is there a difference between a new piece and a piece that we're returning to? Subtle difference, I think, but the freshness and the willingness to be back to as if we're seeing it for the first time. This is the analytical side of what we do. And this brings me to my final point at this particular juncture, and that is that what we do is not always about the feeling of the moment. We have to include the cognitive, the thoughtfulness. It's not just the emotive, the emotions of the moment. It is about what we're thinking about in terms of our intentions. And if we're planning ahead, if we're engaging the brain as much as the ears, as much as the physical side, as much as the psychological side, we have a holistic approach, and in that way can really appraise in a very much more broad sense what we are doing, why we're doing what we're doing, and if we agree with what we're doing, and looking at it as a fresh project. And so whether you're learning a new piece or whether you're returning to a piece, to have the sense of a new journey is a great motivator, and it's also a great stabilizer as we carry on our learning journey, which is, as ever, all part of being a musician.